Let me ask you, you've been pretty close with Donald Trump. Your private texts about him around the 2020 election were made public. In one of them, you said you passionately hate Trump. When that came out, you said that you actually know you love him. So how do you explain the difference?
My texts reflect a lot of things, including how I feel at the moment that I sent them. That specific text I happen to know since I had to go through it forensically during my deposition in a case I was not named in. I had nothing to do with whatsoever. It's crazy how civil suits can be used to hurt people you disagree with politically. But I was mad at a very specific person. I mean, really what that, you're asking me, I'll tell you exactly what that was. It was the second the election ended and they stopped the vote counting on election night. I was like, well, and it's all now mail-in ballots, electronic voting machines. I was like, that's a rigged election. I thought that then, I think it now. Well, now it's obvious that it was. But at the time I was like, I feel like that was crazy what just happened. But I don't want to go on TV and say that's a rigged election because I don't have any evidence it was a rigged election. You can't do that. It's irresponsible and it's wrong. So I was like, the Trump campaign was making all these claims about, this or that fraud. So I was trying my best to substantiate them, to follow up on it. Everyone else is like, shut up, Trump, you lost, go away. We're going to indict you. But I felt like my job was to be like, no, he's president. He's claiming the election just got stolen and he's making these claims. Let's see if we can. Well, the people around him were so incompetent. It was just absolutely crazy. And I called a couple of times. I finally gave up, but I'd call and be like, all right, you guys claim that these inconsistencies and this, whatever this happened, give me evidence and I'll put it on TV. It's my job to bring stuff that is not going to be aired anywhere else to the public. It was insane how incompetent and unserious.
So they weren't able to provide
well, here's the point of the story and of that text. So then they come out and they say, well, dead people voted. Well, that's just an easy call. Okay. If a dead person voted, we can prove someone's dead because being dead is one of the few things we're good at verifying because you start to smell. Okay. And there's a record of it. It's called a death certificate. So it's like, give me the names of people who are dead who voted. And then we can get their registration and we can show they voted. 5 names. So I go on TV and I say, this, Caroline Johnson, 79 of Waukegan, Illinois, voted. Here's her death certificate. She died. And the campaign sends me this stuff. Now, I, in general, don't take stuff directly from campaigns because they all lie because their job is to get elected or whatever. So I'm very wary of campaigns, having been around it for 30 years. So but I made an exception to my rule and I got a bunch of stuff from them. Well, of the 6 names, 2 of them are still alive. What? I immediately corrected it the next night. CNN did a whole segment on how I was spreading disinformation, which I was, by the way. In this one case, they were right. I was so mad. I was like, I hate you. I'm not talking about you. I'm so mad. Anyway, that's the answer. That's what that was.
Who were you texting to?
My producer. And I was venting. It's a producer I was really close to. And I've known him for a long time. He's really smart. And he's he was someone I could be honest with. And I was like, ah! And by the way, it's so funny. Now I'm doing Woe Was Me, which I will keep to a minimum, but it's stealing someone's text. How, and by the way, I was an idiot. I should have said, come and arrest me. I'm not giving you my freaking text messages. Okay.
Yeah.
But I got bullied into it by a lawyer. I didn't get bullied into it. I was weak enough to agree with a lawyer. It was my fault. Never should have done that. Fuck you. They're my texts. I'm not even named in this case. That's what I should have said, but I didn't. I said I was mad on the air the next day, but not in language that colorful. But whatever. I try to be transparent. I also think, by the way, if you watch someone over time, you don't always know what they really think, but you can tell if someone's lying. You can sort of feel it in people. And I have lied. I'm sure I'll lie again. I don't want to lie. I don't think I'm a liar. I try not to be a liar. I don't want to be a liar. I think it's really important not to be a liar.
You said nice things about me earlier. I'm starting to question. I have questions. I have a lot of questions, Tucker.
I hate Lex Fridman.
Yeah. I'm going to have to see your texts after this.
My texts are so uninteresting now. It's like crazy how uninteresting they are.
Emojis and gifs.
Yeah, lots of dog pictures.
Nice. You said to some degree the election was rigged. Was it stolen?
Totally ridiculous. It was 100% stolen. Are you
like
joking?
It was rigged to that large of a degree?
Yeah, they completely change the way people vote right before the election on the basis of COVID, which had nothing to do
so
with
in that way it was rigged, meaning
100%.
Like
and then
manipulated.
Then you censor the information people are allowed to get. Anyone who complains about COVID, which is like, by the way, it might have hurt Trump. But I mean, it's like, whatever. I mean, you could play it many different ways. You can't have censorship in a democracy by definition. Here's how it works. The people rule. They vote for representatives to carry their agenda to the capital city and get it enacted. That's how they're in charge. And then every few years, they get to reassess the performance of those people in an election. In order to do that, they need access, unfettered access to information. And no one, particularly not people who are already in power, is allowed to tell them what information they can have. They have to have all information that they want. Whether the people in charge want it or don't want it or think it's true or think it's false, doesn't matter. And the second you don't have that, you don't have a democracy. It's not a free election, period. And that's very clear in other countries, I guess, but it's not clear here. So, but I would say it's this election that, I mean, it took me a while to come to this, but it's this election that's the referendum on democracy. Biden is senile. He's literally senile. He can't talk. He can't walk. The whole world knows that. Leave our borders. People are, everybody in the world knows it. A senile man is not going to get elected in the most powerful country in the world unless there's fraud. Period. Like, who would vote for a senile man? He literally can't talk. And nobody I've ever met thinks he's running the U.S. government because he's not. And so I think the world is looking on at this coming election and saying, and a lot of the world hates Trump. Okay, it's not an endorsement of Trump, but it's just true. If Joe Biden gets reelected, democracy is a freaking joke. It's just true.
I think half the country doesn't think he's senile, just thinks.
Do you really think that?
Speaking.
They don't think he's senile?
Yeah, I think he just has difficulty speaking. It's like
why do they think he has
gradual degradation, just getting old. So cognitive ability is degrading.
What's the difference between degraded cognitive ability and senility?
Well, senility has a threshold. It's beyond the threshold to where he could be a functioning leader.
Okay, that may be a term of art that I don't fully understand, and maybe there's like an IQ threshold or something. But I'm happy to go with degraded cognitive ability.
Sure, but that's an age thing.
But he's the leader of the United States with the world's second largest nuclear arsenal.
I'm with you. I'm a sucker for great speeches and for speaking abilities of leaders. And Biden, with 2 wars going on and potentially more, the importance of a leader to speak eloquently, both privately in a room with other leaders and publicly, is really important.
I agree with you that rhetorical ability really matters. Convincing people that your program is right, telling them what we're for, national identity, national unity, all come from words. I agree with all of that. But at this stage, even someone who grunted at the microphone would be more reassuring than a guy who clearly doesn't know where he is. And I think everyone knows that. And like, I can't imagine there's an honest person in Washington which is going to vote for Biden by 90%, obviously, because they're all dependent on the federal government for their income. But is there any person who could say, like, out of 350 million Americans, like, that's the most qualified to lead, or even in the top 80%? Like, what? That's so embarrassing that guy is our president. And with wars going on, it's scary.
But it's complicated to understand why those are the choices we have.
Well, I agree. Well, it's a failure of the system. Clearly, it's not working. If you've got one guy over 80, the other guy almost at 80, like, people that age should not be running anything.
So why you have on the Democratic side, you have Dean Phillips, you have RK Jr. until recently, I guess he's independent, and then you have Vivek, who are all younger people.
Yeah.
Why did they not connect to a degree to where
it's such an interesting? I mean, I think it's a really interesting question. There are a million different answers, and of course I don't fully understand it. even though I feel like I've watched it pretty carefully. But I would say the bottom line is there's so much money vested in the federal apparatus, in the parties, in the government. As I said a minute ago, our economy is dominated by monopolies, but the greatest of all monopolies is the federal monopoly, which oversees and controls all the other monopolies. So it's like, it's really substantially about the money. It's not ideological. It's about the money. And if someone controls the federal government, I mean, at this point, it's the most powerful organization in human history. Like, it's kind of hard to fight that. And in the case of Trump, I know the answer there. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They indicted him on bullshit charges. Like, and I felt that in myself too. Even I was like, come on. You know, like, whatever you think of Trump. And I agreed with his immigration views. And I really like Trump personally. I think he's hilarious and interesting, which he is. But it's like, okay, there are a lot of people in this country. Let's get some, you know, let's have at very least, like, let's have a real debate. The second, messed up your camera, sir. Sorry, I'm getting excited. But the second they raided Mar-a-Lago on a documents charge, as someone from DC, I was like, I know a lot about classification and all that stuff and been around it a lot. That's so absurd that I was like, now it's not about Trump. It's about our system continuing. Like, if you can take out a presidential candidate on a fake charge, use the justice system to take the guy out of the race, then we don't have a representative democracy anymore. And I think a lot of Republican voters felt that way. If they hadn't indicted him, I'm not sure he would be the nominee. I really don't think he would be.
So now a vote for Trump is a kind of fuck you to the system.
Or an expression of your desire to keep the system that we had, which is one where voters get to decide. Prosecutors don't get to decide. Look, they told us for 4 years that Trump was like a super criminal or something. I've actually been friends with some super criminals. I'm a little less judgy than most. So I didn't discount the possibility that he had, I don't know, he's in the real estate business in New York in the 70s. Like, did he kill someone? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, no, I'm not joking. And I'm not for killing people, but like, anything's possible.
It's good that you took a stand on that.
Yeah. No, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I was like, well, who knows, you know?
Yeah. Real estate.
And I didn't know. And what they came up with was a documents charge? Are you joking? And then the sitting president has the same documents violation, but he's fine. It's like, it's just crazy this is happening in front of all of us. And then it becomes like, at that point, it's not about Joe Biden. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about preserving a system which has worked not perfectly, but pretty freaking well for 250 years. I know you don't like Trump. I get it. Let's not destroy that system. Like, we can handle another 4 years of Trump. I think we can. So I'll calm down. What we can't handle is a country whose political system is run by the Justice Department. Like, that is just, you're freaking Ecuador at that point. No.